There's a seed that transformed my garden from a space requiring constant intervention into a self-sustaining ecosystem that practically manages itself. This isn't some exotic import or genetically modified marvel, it's an ancient crop that our ancestors relied upon for millennia. Yet somehow we've collectively forgotten its incredible power to revolutionize soil health. I'm talking about fava beans, also known as broad beans. And once you understand what these remarkable legumes can do for your garden, you'll wonder how you ever gardened without them. This single addition has eliminated my need for synthetic nitrogen fertilizers, attracted armies of beneficial insects, improved my soil structure dramatically, and created a foundation of fertility that feeds every other plant in my garden year after year. Fava beans possess a superpower that sets them apart from nearly every other garden plant. They don't just consume nutrients from the soil, they actually manufacture nitrogen and deposit it directly into the earth, through a fascinating symbiotic relationship with rhizobium. Bacteria, fava bean roots, develop nodules that act as miniature nitrogen factories, pulling atmospheric nitrogen from the air and converting it into plant-available forms. This isn't a modest contribution either. A well-established fava bean crop can fix between 150 to 300 pounds of nitrogen per acre, essentially doing the work of several bags of commercial fertilizer without any cost or environmental impact. What makes this even more remarkable is that fava beans are extraordinarily generous with their nitrogen production. Unlike many legumes that hold on to their fixed nitrogen until they decompose, fava beans leak significant amounts of nitrogen compounds directly from their roots throughout their growing season, making it immediately available to neighboring plants. I've watched tomatoes planted alongside fava beans develop deeper green foliage and more vigorous growth than those in beds, without this companion, despite receiving identical care otherwise. The fava beans are literally feeding their neighbors while they grow, creating a living fertilizer system that operates continuously. The timing of fava beans makes them even more valuable for garden fertility. They're exceptionally cold-hardy, thriving in cool weather that would damage or kill most garden crops. You can plant them in late fall or very early spring, allowing them to establish deep root systems and begin their nitrogen-fixing work long before your main garden crops go in the ground. When you cut them down at flowering stage, right before they put energy into producing beans, and turn them into the soil, you're incorporating massive amounts of nitrogen-rich green manure exactly when your summer vegetables need it most. The biological timing couldn't be more perfect. Beyond their nitrogen contributions, fava beans are soil builders in the most literal sense. Their roots penetrate deeply, often reaching 3 to 4 feet down, breaking up compacted layers that shallow-rooted crops can never access. As these robust roots push through dense soil, they create channels for air and water penetration, essentially performing deep aeration without any mechanical intervention from you. When the roots eventually decompose, these channels remain, creating permanent pathways that improve drainage in heavy soils and increase water retention in sandy soils. I've measured soil compaction in my beds before and after growing fava beans, and the difference is dramatic. Soil that once required significant effort to push a fork into becomes friable and loose. The organic matter contribution from fava beans is equally impressive. A mature fava bean plant develops substantial biomass both above and below ground. When you cut the plants down and incorporate them into your soil, you're adding green material that's extraordinarily high in nitrogen, which breaks down quickly and feeds soil microorganisms intensely. This microbial feeding frenzy creates stable humus, improves soil aggregation, and increases the soil's capacity to hold nutrients and water. Meanwhile, those extensive root systems are decomposing underground, adding organic matter throughout the entire soil profile, not just in the top few inches where most amendments stay. The ecological benefits of fava beans extend far beyond soil chemistry. Their flowers are absolute magnets for early-season pollinators, particularly bumblebees, which emerge from hibernation hungry and desperately seeking nectar sources before most garden plants are blooming. I've counted over 50 bumblebees working a small patch of flowering fava beans on a warm spring morning. By providing this early food source, you're supporting pollinator populations that will go on to pollinate your entire garden throughout the season. It's an investment in the ecosystem that pays dividends all year long. Fava beans also attract beneficial predatory insects in remarkable numbers. The extrafloral nectaries on fava bean leaves secrete sweet substances that attract parasitic wasps, lacewings, and predatory beetles, the very insects that prey on aphids, caterpillars, and other garden pests. I've noticed that beds where I've grown fava beans have significantly fewer pest problems in subsequent crops than beds without this history. It's as if the fava beans establish a beneficial insect population that persists long after the beans themselves are gone, creating a natural pest management system that requires no intervention from me. The shade provided by mature fava bean plants creates microclimates that benefit cool season crops. I've successfully extended my lettuce and spinach harvest by weeks simply by interplanting them with fava beans, which provide just enough shade to prevent bolting during those transitional periods when spring warms into summer. The fava beans act as living trellises and windbreaks, moderating temperature and moisture fluctuations that would otherwise stress delicate greens. Growing fava beans successfully requires understanding their preferences, but they're remarkably forgiving plants. They thrive in cool weather, making them perfect for fall planting in mild climates or very early spring planting where winters are harsh. I plant mine in late October in my Zone 7 garden, and they establish modest growth before winter, then explode with vigor in February and March. In colder regions, planting as soon as soil can be worked in spring, even when frost is still expected, works beautifully because fava beans tolerate temperatures down to the low 20s without damage. Spacing depends on your goals. If you're growing primarily for soil improvement, broadcast seeds densely and rake them in, creating a thick stand that maximizes biomass and nitrogen fixation. If you want both soil benefits and a harvest of beans, space plant 6 inches apart in rows 12 inches apart, which allows good air circulation while still providing substantial soil improvement. The beauty of fava beans is their flexibility. There's no single right way to grow them, and they're remarkably adaptable to different garden situations. So, the question of when to cut them down is, well, crucial for maximizing soil benefits. The optimal time is when plants are in full flower but before pods have formed. You see, at this stage, the plant tissue has the ideal carbon-to-nitrogen ratio for rapid decomposition and nutrient release. The plants are also at their maximum biomass before they start diverting energy into seed production. I like to use head shears to cut plants at soil level. Then, I either chop the material and incorporate it immediately, or lay it on the soil surface as mulch. The roots, they remain in the ground, decomposing slowly and releasing nitrogen gradually. And remember, never pull fava bean plants out. Those nitrogen-rich root nodules are, well, treasure left in the soil. Finding fava bean seeds has become easier as more gardeners discover their benefits, though they're still not as common as the usual beans you see everywhere. Look for varieties specifically suited to your climate and purpose. Aqua Dulce and Broad Windsor are reliable heirloom varieties that perform well across different regions and are pretty easy to find. For those of you in milder climates who want to really make the most of cold season growth, Aqua Dulce Claudia is particularly winter hardy. If you're mainly interested in eating some beans while also improving your soil, Sweet Lorraine produces delicious beans and still offers excellent soil benefits. One of the coolest things about growing fava beans is how easy it is to save seed. Unlike hybrid crops that don't breed true, fava beans are open-pollinated and stable. Just allow part of your crop to mature fully until the pods dry and turn black, then go ahead and harvest and store those big seeds. You'll have free seed for next year and can even increase your planting area without spending any extra money. This kind of self-sufficiency is really satisfying and connects you to agricultural traditions that go back thousands of years. After 3 years of incorporating fava beans into my garden rotation, the cumulative effects are, honestly, undeniable. My soil is darker, richer, and more alive than ever before. Earthworm populations have exploded. I now count 30 to 40 worms in every shovelful of soil in beds where fava beans have grown, compared to maybe 5 or 6 previously. My vegetables grow faster, resist pests and diseases better, and produce more abundantly, all without increasing my fertilizer inputs. In fact, I've actually decreased them a lot because the soil now supports itself. Perhaps most importantly, fava beans have changed how I think about gardening. Rather than viewing my garden as something that needs constant outside inputs to maintain productivity, I now see it as an ecosystem I'm cultivating, where plants themselves create the fertility that sustains future growth. Fava beans have taught me that the most powerful tools for garden health aren't found in bottles or bags, but in the wisdom of plants that have sustained human agriculture for millennia. This forgotten ancient seed isn't just feeding my garden, it's, well, revolutionizing my entire approach to growing food. If you're ready to transform your garden with this ancient wisdom and discover more soil-building strategies that work with nature rather than against it, subscribe to the Living Soil Lab. Share this video with fellow gardeners who are ready to reduce their inputs while increasing their results. And join our community of growers who understand that the best solutions are often the ones our ancestors knew all along.